5, we have a quorum. Go ahead and call the workshop session to order, please. Mr. King.
Mayor, Council, the workshop today is on the proposed modifications to our water conservation ordinance, and we'll start with Carol doing a quick review of the program that we ran for 2 months last summer, so you can kind of see the impact that is totally responsible for the impact, but it certainly played a role in the volumes that we saw last year. And then she'll go into the current ordinance and how it's set up and the changes that she's recommending for the future. So rock and roll, Carol.
Go with it real quick. This was the period that we did our little mandatory restrictions on last year, and it was a 60-day period, July 1 through August 31st. And that's when we implemented stage 2 and made it mandatory. And that we picked that time frame mainly because it's generally our highest demand period. And we covered a 5-year database as a comparison, just so we'd pick up any anomaly that might be out there, but we really focused 13 to 12 comparison. We did a soft approach to our enforcement, and we had a provision for variances as we knew we would need that. And we recorded quite a bit of data from that 6-month period to 60-day period of actions, variance requests, and so forth. The actual results of that 60-day period, we saw a 10% reduction in 2013 usage of billable gallons versus 2012 for that 60-day period. There was actually about a 30% reduction from 2011. That was that anomaly that we talked about, because 2011 was the hottest, driest year on record. So that just shows you the difference that 1 year made. And we said we captured some enforcement data. We sent out 222 notices, and you see it decreased in August. People finally got the message that we were serious about our enforcement. 6 of those 22 were warning citations. 222 were warning citations. We didn't have any actual citations that we issued. And we had 37 requests for variance, and we approved all of those. Most of those variances were for folks who had ordered new sod already before they got word that we were going to do the mandatory restrictions, and they needed a variance to get the sod watered. The other were requests from large tracts that could not get their through all of their stations in their split time frames. We had the 5 to 9 and 7 to 11, and they couldn't get through all of their stations. We said we did a 5-year comparison, and you can see here 2009 through 13, and these were our peak day pumpage records. And you can see that 2011 really sticks up, but you can look at 2012 versus 2013, and we had about a 3 MGD average difference on our peak day. Another 5-year average, we narrowed it down. We started with the 5-year, we got it down to the 4 months, June through September, which is basically our summertime usage, and we broke it out by class, and you can see that our residential and sprinklers are the 2 largest users. Here's another version of the 25 comparison, going down a little bit tighter. Taking that residential and sprinkler usage just for July and August, our 60-day period there, and you can see how that fanned out over the 5-year period. Going right down a little tighter, we've got, this is July and August for 2012 and 2013. This is what we really were looking at comparing, and you can see there the difference, July and August for 2012 versus 13. And that's the comparison of our total billable for 2012. And that's of everything that we had, all the classes together for 2012. All the classes for 2013, you can see it doesn't change much. It's residential and sprinklers, which are our biggest users. And then this is our very tight version of, we broke it down, the usage for July of 2012 and 13. This is July only, and you can see how it went down from 2013 to 2012, 2012 to 13. And then this is our August. 2012 and 13. I couldn't get all of that on one slide. There was too much for that. And you can see when you get out to the end there, you've got your industrial, hotel, motel. Those don't change much because their usage isn't dependent on irrigation. So you can really see the difference comes with residential and sprinkler irrigation usage throughout. So it's an update for that. And we got to go to the next one.
While she's bringing that up, of course, you can't really say that it's just the program that we implemented in July and August that had the impact on the reduced demand. probably was a little bit cooler. There may have been some rainfall incidents here and there. She did some analysis on that. There were some spotty rainfalls that could have influenced people's watering cycles, but nonetheless, it does show potential perhaps for reductions. And what the true impact is across the entire system, most of this impact is on residential and sprinklers, which is where you have most of your irrigation in the summer. And while it does result in a reduction there, you still have a lot of normal demand. There's no doubt about it, there's still a lot of normal demand, but if you can keep off those peaks, like that peak flow analysis or chart showed, that keeps us from having to bump the peak abnormally. And that's what I think we're all after.
I want to see us, let's go to that next bracket before we have to.
This is the actual plan update. And a little bit of background, the state requires that we have council adopted water conservation and emergency water management plans. Some folks call it drought contingency. These plans have to be updated every 5 years. Our most current update was in 2009, and we have this update due May 1st, 2014. And based on the information that you just saw and what's going on in the region, there's a need to change a little bit of what we're doing. Real quick update on the current plan, what we're currently doing. We have 3 stages. The first one is a voluntary conservation stage. You have a triggering criteria for that, whether it be conservation or DW or distribution issues to kick that off. The actions available to us are our residential landscape watering only on trash collection days. This was the 2 time frames that I talked about that was problematic for folks. We got a lot of complaints on that. The 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 7 to 11. If you've got very many stations, they couldn't seem to get through those. And we were not allowing any watering on Sunday. Stage 2 was our first mandatory stage. The triggering criteria for that was pretty much the same. Supply depletion or DW implements something. By contract, we have to implement like measures. And then our failure, stage 1, to reach our usage goals. The actions available there are pretty much the same as stage 1, but they're mandatory. We could put a few more prohibitions in there to hosing off paved areas, swimming pool refills, those kind of things. And we did make an exception, or we do make an exception. Soaker hose and handheld watering of landscape or golf courses and nurseries can be done during the designated hours on those days, or any time actually in the stage. The current plan, stage 3, is our water crisis. It's a mandatory stage as well, but it's our most stringent stage. And depletion of DW connected reservoirs, they give the percentages on that action. We have to follow those, or we have distribution or system failure, and we can't reduce our usage the way we need to. That's what we're currently doing. And the actions available on that are much more restrictive. You're down to basically in stage 3, no watering. And then we actually reduce our golf courses and our nurseries. And we can implement a temporary rate increase if we need to do that. The recommended changes, this is the important part, because this is what we're going to ask you to look at tonight. The stage 1 is still a water watch, but it'll be mandatory. We want to change that to mandatory, make it year-round for all residential and commercial users. We also want to impose a time frame for watering during the hours of 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. during the summer months, May 1 to September 30th. This will further reduce our usage during our peak summer months. So you can water year-round twice a week, but during this time frame, May 1 to September 30, we're going to restrict that to 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. And we're going to change, since we're going to once a week trash, plus it seems to will be work better for us, we're going to change the trash collection from trash collection days to odd even addresses. So if you have an address ending in the even number 02468 or a customer with no street address, they'll be allowed to water on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Addresses ending in odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 will water on Wednesday and Sunday. And our commercial users, including multifamily, will water on Monday and Thursday. So really there'll only be 1 day a week when there'll be no watering, and that will be Friday. Stage 2 is an emergency, water emergency. It's also a mandatory stage. And the triggering criteria for that will be primarily if DW implements the conservation measures or their connected reservoirs show a significant depletion. If you notice, there were no triggering criteria for stage 1 because that's a mandatory stage, so it's going to be in effect. These are the actions available under stage 2, residential landscape watering. Under stage 2, we'll go to once a week from 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. Even addresses would be Tuesdays, odd addresses Wednesday, and our commercial, which includes multifamily, would be Thursday. Now, you will be able to do soaker hose and handheld watering on those designated days between those time frames. And hosing of paved areas and buildings and windows are prohibited. Commercial car washes, we're gonna reduce that, request to reduce that 2 to 6 p.m. each day. So you're gonna cut out a 4-hour window for them. And draining and refilling of pools would be prohibited. So there's several things there that we look at. Commercial users may be required to reduce their usage by a percentage. And that's the first that you'll see of that, because most of the commercial usage, theirs is operational or especially with industrial, it's their process. But when we get to stage 2, we may ask them to reduce by a percentage. And we also have the option here for residential usage over 6,000 gallons per month, that we may increase that by a percentage that could be established to obtain the reduction that we need. We will have a couple of exceptions in stage 2, and that would be that your foundations may be watered with soaker hose or handheld on your scheduled day. And golf courses, we're going to restrict them a little more, but give them an exception. They can water greens and tees on Mondays and Tuesdays between 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. and fairways only on Thursdays between 6 and 10 a.m. Stage 3 is our most stringent stage still. It's water crisis. And there again, that will depend primarily on either a major system failure or DW implements one of their conservation stages. The actions available here are going to be all vehicle washing prohibited except for commercial car washes, and we're going to restrict those to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This would be a very severe stage, and we know it's their business, but we're going to have to do that if we get in this severe stage.
Kirby, are they also hour restricted?
They will be on those days. And that's another measure that we can implement if we need that. Then the rates for residential users over 6,000 gallons, once again, that can be temporarily increased to obtain that reduction. And commercial users may be required to reduce their consumption as well. And then all commercial and residential landscape watering will be prohibited. So in stage 3, there's no outdoor watering allowed. The exceptions would be that nurseries, to keep them alive, they can water their plant stock 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We checked with a couple of them, and they all say that their plant stock they mainly water by hand anyway. And they said, we're not open, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., so they needed something in the daytime. And so 9 to 4 gives them about the same amount of time to water. In golf courses, we're going to allow the greens and tees from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. On Thursday, Wednesday, Monday, and Thursday, but the fairways would be prohibited. The whole idea there is just to keep the greens alive.
On the 6,000 residential usage over 6,000, is that, like, some people have 2 meters. So is that per meter, or is that?
I think we can implement these any way we need to. I would think that it would be their outside irrigation that would be their biggest usage.
It's set for one of the programs that you can have, if they have an irrigation meter.
Right.
Or a basic residential meter, I think anything over 6 can be tied to the rating.
Because this is
It gives you the option.
Gives you
Yes.
the option.
Gives you the option to do both if you wanted to, but you wouldn't
Combine
have
the
to,
two?
you wouldn't have to do both.
Okay. Where you
Just do the
combine.
irrigation if you wanted.
Because in stage 3, we're going to be in severe situations. So.
Right.
And then just summarize.
Before you summarize, Carol, Steve, would you address the commercial car washes and the golf course? The golf course primarily for clarification, and the commercial car washes because you could get some questions about that. We've had them in the past from lobbying groups that represent commercial car washes. So how does that actually work?
On the commercial car washes, normally most of the newer car washes have a recycling program, so we'll have to watch and monitor this on their time restrictions, et cetera. These restrictions were basically set up for those that do not recycle. And so it's one that we'll have to work through when the time comes to implement that. But if you've got a recycling program, there may be issues where we have the time restrictions from 2 to 6 or whatever it is. that if they can prove their recycling, if we can show on a water meter that they are conserving water to the best of their ability, no drag out, et cetera, into the street, then we'll be able to work with that.
We do have a provision for variance that they can submit in writing, and they verify that it would be an undue hardship on them.
Some of the older handheld car washes, et cetera, that are considered commercial car washes do not have a recycling program, so they're using basically a straight load, straight feed in from the water system into a pressure tank and then providing that service. So those are the ones that we would be looking at. And then when you go to stage 3, you're looking at then actually some days that they can't function those car washes at that point. On the golf course, again, the water restrictions from us is if they're buying the water to irrigate from our city distribution system. Our golf course, the golf course out at Lake Park has a contract with the city of Dallas. So they will be, if we go into a restriction, into a depletion of the reservoir, they will shut them off from the raw water side. This only contemplates if they're purchasing water from our distribution
So
system.
the point being, you could see some variation there depending on what Dallas is making their customers, the golf course, do or not do. It may be different than what our ordinance would say to do because they have a direct contract with the city of Dallas for some of their irrigation.
Especially since they're just building that new golf course down there, but they're gonna have the TPC tournament down.
You would think that long before we impose ours, Dallas would be restricting the golf course itself, but maybe not.
What about the golf courses that use the either treated water or partially treated from the
That
sewage
it's
treatment?
not affected by
It won't be affected?
it. Well, they're outside the city limits, so we don't
But
have.
they're a customer, wouldn't
We sell water, we sell the effluent through our
Customer.
Trinity.
through
they?
the-
Right. Would that be counted?
No, they're outside the city limits, so we're not regulating their use.
But even if the water is coming from Louisville?
Our contract requires that we
Okay.
provide them up to 2 million gallons a day.
Okay. So that would be the only limitation there would be?
It might automatically be restricted because if we're not treating as much wastewater, there's not gonna be as much available then.
Yeah, it could happen that way.
I was wondering if that was the case, then you'd be hearing from Dallas that there's not enough water coming down the river.
Unlikely.
It's ours until it hits the river, so. And in summary, real briefly, what we're looking to do is that our emergency water management plan changes, they need to comply with state and federal requirements and the regional requirements, and really and truly, it's just based on what our needs are and what's going on in the region. Regional approach is what they're asking all the cities to take, and what we're requesting is very much in line with what's going on around us. Fort Worth took their ordinance to council last week, I believe, to go to twice a week, and Dallas took theirs back in February. So what we're looking at is all 3 stages will be mandatory, with stage 1 being year-round. You can water 2 days a week year-round, but during this hours, the May 1 to September 30th for stages 1 and 2, that we would restrict that watering from 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. So you still could do twice a week, but you would just 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. That further restricts that during our high use time. And the watering schedule will be changed from our trash collection days to the odd even addresses. I said stage 1 will be in effect year-round, ongoing, therefore there's no triggering criteria. It's going to be in effect so that there's no triggering criteria associated with that. Stage 2 and 3 triggering criteria will be primarily based on the supply and delivery and the DWU implementation and the reservoir depletion. Just to summarize, addresses ending in even numbers, 02468, and will water on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and that would include anyone who does not have a physical address.
And that'll be your most significant change.
Yes.
From the standpoint of the customer, the citizen that's watering. There's gonna be a period of time where there's a lot of confusion. They used to water every Tuesday, Thursday, because that was a trash day, or Monday, Thursday, or every Tuesday, Friday. They're gonna be going to odd even, which is a very common system.
It is.
But it's gonna be a change that we're gonna work our way through.
The odd even and the changes in the times, which everyone requested that, so we had a lot of requests for that, so I think they will be appreciative of that part. In the odd, our commercial users, and we're including multifamily in that, they will be on Mondays and Thursdays, like I said, so really the only day there's no watering will be Friday, and that's it.
So how are we going to, or I shouldn't say how we're going to do it. What is our plan on as far as enforcing these? And non-compliance?
Well, we're gonna ease into it. We're not gonna jump out there and start slapping people with citations. Never have approached it that way. And you tend to be a little bit more lenient in stage one than if you do stage two. By the time you get to stage three, presumably, if you've gone through these other two stages, you wind up being pretty hardcore at that level. But we use a little bit of judgment, and we try to ease into it, and especially the change on the front end of this, if implemented, the effective date, I think, is May 1 technically. We're gonna be sending out a lot of information to people, reminding people, a lot of reminder notices. City of Lewisville, you may not know, has changed the rules, and here's what they are, and we're asking for their compliance, and then we'll give people probably a couple warnings or a couple informational notices before we start getting any more aggressive than that.
The reason I was asking is the complaints I get filed, I'm sure you saw a lot of them too, were from people complaining, like you were talking about the time frame.
Yeah.
They wanted, because they're not always there to do that
Yeah.
at that time, this, that, so, and you've adjusted that, I understand it. But the second largest, this is probably the largest thing I get, period, is about people not complying. And then why aren't you doing anything about it?
And that's,
And you can see we were doing a lot.
Yeah.
We just weren't, I mean, people don't know.
We just, we
But
don't go
did not-
knock
we
on the
did
door and
kinda-
say, hey, we,
Kind of draw a line and said, we're not going to issue citations last year because it's something different, new, and we would do that probably this year to a point for a month or two at the very minimum. And at some point, you start getting a little, especially if you got somebody that's a repeat offender or just ignoring them, you're not going to keep banging your head against the wall.
That was what I was gonna lead to. Are we gonna have the same thing like you can on reporting code violations, where you can do it on the internet and anonymously report someone? Because that's what I've been telling them. Hey, if you got it.
That's why we're here.
yeah, we had that set up to where,
Okay, that's what I tell them, hey, if you want to complain, you can go online and do it, and it's anonymous, and then that way, because we can't have somebody going around every day, all day long.
we've even talked about a special phone line. We're gonna, it's depending on, tonight, we'll start with, we've already got a lot of it ready. It'll go out in water bills. We won't be able to hit every cycle right off, but we'll put it on the website and work with James's folks and, just do a pretty big media blitz if we could to let people know what's going on.
so we're basically taking what we did for 2 months and we're turning it into a 12-month program.
Yes.
Yeah, with different.
Slightly different.
With the emphasis on summer.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't just doing last year again work?
You need to get people in the notion that watering twice a week becomes a habit. And then the only thing we do is restrict the time frame in the summer.
This is a trend out there with the production community to try to get people to just stop relying on water as much as possible. That means adjusting your landscaping, you need to, that means changing your schedule, you do it here, you don't have to worry about these fluctuations.
The consistency is key. Keep it in play. And the fly rounds, the Hollow Village, the Coppell, we used the system for several years as far as the summertime, time watering, et cetera. And they say it's easy. This first year is kind of rough, but everybody follows it pretty much.
So I get that from what a producer of water needs. I don't get that from a conservation of water mindset.
Yeah, it may not help that much during the winter months to be focused on a twice-weekly watering schedule, but again, it's designed to get the behavior consistently changed.
It helps shape the
Could
peaks.
certainly,
Well, it helps shape the peaks. Then I look at towns next to us that obviously are doing this, and they're scheduled, and they're still using 10 times the water we are because they've got 10 times the St. Augustine or whatever on their lawn. So,
Yeah.
so you know.
Dallas has reduced theirs by, of course, they talk in billions of gallons, but they've been doing this now, this is the third year for them, and it's made a significant difference. And we're part of Region C, and they're taking a regional approach, and they're asking every city to be consistent, so that and we actually, piggyback off Dallas's media, because we have people call us and say, I know we get our water from Dallas, so are we on the same schedule and everything, and no,
Oh,
you don't.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Is stage one gonna be the same in Louisville as it is in Dallas?
yes.
Is 2 and 3 the same way too?
But it may not be the same as it is in Collin County.
I don't care about Collin County,
Well,
because that's
It's
separate
very, very
lakes.
close. The only thing that may vary with Dallas and their stage 2 and 3, they used to have 5 stages, and they went to 4, now they're to 3.
Okay,
Uh,
so we're with them.
Some of their prohibitions may be different. Now, they've got the aquariums, they've got the different atriums, the rose gardens and all that stuff that we don't have.
A lot of outdoor fountains.
And fountains. They have a lot more fountains that don't recycle water because they're older, so.
If we could also do something on the North Texas Municipal Utility District over there, different lakes, different situation.
Yeah, totally.
It's not all of Collin County, some of it's Denton County, but it's different, because they're in a whole lot worse shape than the Trinity Basin is, that's with Dallas.
They built up before they had the water supply. We've had the water supply. we
And
just
they
been going
lost.
down.
They've had complications with
Zebra mussel and the Texoma and all that other stuff.
try to differentiate between.
It's gonna be tough, because that's what the ads you're hearing now are out there about the North Texas Municipal.
Yeah, they hit it really hard. They started in January.
Mhm.
They're-
And they're already at one time a week watering?
Legend.
Yes.
We'll get a lot
Like
of phone
everything
calls
else, you
for
see
60
you
days.
see aberrations and
Talking about advertising.
wonder.
2 questions. Which level is the summer fracking water restriction tied to?
Which level? It's addressed on the permit, and we can put it,
That one's addressed in the permit by, I can do it at any
Yeah.
time, or the manager can do it anytime. they
Okay.
do it.
And the private, not that I want to have people beating my door down, but private water supply exception still exists?
they have to, we don't have any control over wells. Well, all we would ask is that
Maybe like the golf course.
if you have a well, please stick up a sign so that in your yard say well water, so people don't.
It's easier to do the city deal.
Yes,
We don't hear from their neighbors.
yes. It is.
Especially when you're highly visible.
Yes.
He's saying just do the same schedule as the rest of the city.
Oh.
And have your neighbors
Nobody-
upset at you for having a well.
Yeah.
Nobody's papering my yard or something.
Have we still got restrictions on drilling?
Oh, excuse me?
Restrictions on drilling still?
On the use of water for fracking.
In some-
No,
water wells.
sorry. People drilling private wells.
They could go,
They have to let us know the permit, but the state's not demanding that you don't do it. They ask that you don't, but you're not totally restricted.
Who is that?
A private water well, Texas Well Drillers Association, and through TCEQ, Texas Water Development Board, you can drill a well, you just have to register it and get you're supposed to have a licensed well driller to put it in the ground. A lot of people do not, but there's no limitations within our city ordinances on water wells.
If you do put in a well, then you have to have a backflow device so that there's no connection to our system, so.
That's the other questions.
We just ask that, consider the ordinance and the implementation, or the plan, so we can submit that to Austin first.
And that's on
We
the
can
agenda
begin our
tonight.
implementation.
1st of May, right.
I'm sorry, May.
Yes.
But it's on the agenda tonight.
Does our state, just curiosity, does our state plan mention DW restrictions on us?
It mentions our compliance with the water authority and state requirements. The state requires DW to impose on their wholesale water customers, and that, we are one. And then we also, any wholesale customers we have, we're required to impose our restrictions on them.
Okay.
So if I'm supposed to approve this tonight, there's several of the options are a percentage, but the percentage is not defined.
Don't you?
We ask that you leave it as a percentage, and then if we come back to you with one of those options in a situation, then we will address that at that point in time. In the old ordinance, it had I believe, a 5% and a 10% increase. We ask that you delete that, you not consider that percentage, because it could be something in a dire emergency that it needs to be 5%, or it may need to be 20%.
Okay, but it's part of the language that it will come back to us.
Yes, sir.
That's not part of the language that the city
I
managers.
cannot enforce a rate increase without a rate ordinance.
Okay.
if we have a total system failure or a huge mechanical failure, we might need a 20% reduction. We can't imagine that. I'd never do that, but if we put the percentages in there, then we're kind of stuck with that, so
Okay.
I'd rather leave that open-ended.
Carol, regarding Neil's question about what was the restrictions that come downstream, you said something about the restrictions apply to us, and then we take those same restrictions and apply them to our customers that we supply water to? Is
If
that?
we have wholesale customers, the state requires, if you're a water provider, that you have to implement a plan, and that plan has to pass on to any wholesale customer that you have. We're a wholesale customer of Dallas, so we have to impose like measures, and if we have wholesale customers, we impose those measures on them as well,
Okay, so what is Castle Hills considered?
wholesale customers.
They are a portion,
Yes.
of, we are a wholesale provider on a portion of that north of 544.
They do their own thing about the Trinity south of 544.
Okay, well, I got a little confused in that you said we had no responsibility to do anything with their water supply.
Well, we can't pass an ordinance that requires them to do it. We can have a contract provision that might require them to do something. It's not an ordinance, but it's not, we can't enforce an ordinance out there,
All right.
to my knowledge.
Our contract does have provisions in it that they have to consider like measures what we're doing as a wholesale provider, that you can go beyond basic use.
Okay, thank you.
May I
That
ask-
clarifies it. Thank you.
may I ask any questions? Thank you very much, Carol, appreciate it. Good job.
It's proclamation.
Yeah, that's what he was walking through. Yeah. Hey, we're gonna have
Let's
a,
move on to the regular agenda. Do you have anything else that you call? No. See, we have several proclamations tonight. Public hearing is item number 1. We do take a motion on these, but you don't have to read them, isn't that correct, Council?
Well, you're just gonna continue.
Yeah,
it.
these were already
But we had to
open.
take a motion to
To
continue.
continue.
Right.
Okay.
We're just gonna be continuing these until they're ready to go.
Item 2. Item 3.
Here, let me have Nika give you a quick presentation on this so that you're familiar with the process of a planned unit development. This is one that you have not seen, the city hasn't seen since the 80s, and I just thought it would be useful for you to understand the differences in the process for this compared to a typical zoning case, because there are some oddities related to this particular chapter of the zoning ordinance that we need to work our way through in this case, and so that you don't get confused later on. Thought it'd be useful for her to update you on that.
Okay.
Okay. So, Council, very briefly, I wanted to cover 3 things. The difference between standard zoning and PUD zoning, the procedures for a planned unit development zoning, and then changes that were made on the concept plan that you see tonight before you versus what went to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Although we have had the planned unit development tool in our toolbox, basically zoning ordinance, for a very long time, we really have not been using it, mainly because it was meant for larger developments. So in July of 2013, Council, you changed the ordinance to go from 30 acres minimum requirements to 5 acres minimum requirements. So basically, this opened the provision for smaller tracts to come under the planned unit development. And because we have now smaller infill developments, it makes sense for us to be looking at this tool for the smaller developments. Primarily because it yields a more quality development, because you have more control over a planned unit development versus you do on standard basic standard zoning ordinance. Under standard zoning ordinance, the applicant will basically provide you the meets and bounds description of the property, and you see the boundary, and that's the extent of what you see on a zoning application. And they are required to comply with the minimum ordinance requirements. So the minimum lot size, minimum house size, so there is no conditions attached to the development to control the quality of the development. Under the PUD zoning, you can have more creative developments. It yields better, higher, more quality standards, but it does allow flexibility. So you are in a position of give and take. And it does provide more control over requirements versus deed restrictions, because at times we have used deed restrictions in order to do certain things with development, but deed restrictions are private covenants versus this is going to be a locally controlled ordinance. So it gives us a lot more control over the requirements. So examples in this particular applications are better facade developments. We have asked Pulte to develop facades specifically for this development in Louisville, and they've done that. 100% masonry requirements on elevations next to public streets. We have open space requirements within this development, garages that are clad in decorative wood veneer, and limiting the number of small lots. So those are examples. In your ordinance, you see a whole list of conditions with the regular zoning ordinance you don't see. So under procedures, we have several times that you're going to be seeing this plan coming before you, and currently that is in our zoning ordinance, again, because the ordinance was targeted for larger developments that would develop over time, 300, 400, 500 acres, that would develop like in 10 years, so you would continually be seeing development plans. So one of the things we'd probably be looking at is streamlining the ordinance in the future. They'll be bringing that back to you to streamline the process, especially for small developments like this. So the current ordinance basically talks about a zoning application, which is what you have in front of you, and a preliminary plat, which has been submitted. The preliminary plat will go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and if there are no variances, it can be approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Following that, you have a development plan that comes with the final plat and a project plan. So 3 more steps that will follow, that you will continue, and the Planning and Zoning Commission will continue to see this application to make sure everything has been complied with.
And it may look virtually the same as it does today.
The reason they're going to virtually look the same is we have asked for a lot of information on the concept plan that's before you. So the concept plan that's currently before you almost covers a lot of requirements under the development plan and project plan, but you will continue seeing it as steps in the ordinance, because that is what currently is in our ordinance. So the engineering site plan that's referenced in the ordinance is not applicable because we don't have any commercial or mix of uses in here. So the final plat construction plans that's going to be submitted as part of the final plat will cover that part of the ordinance. Changes that were made to the concept plan after it went to P&Z. So council has the ability to impose conditions, even tonight, to impose conditions on the project, and it really doesn't need to go back to P&Z because P&Z is going to see the development plan afterwards. But I wanted to cover the things that have changed. So the lots on Oak Bend have deeper, and now your exhibits in your package shows that. So the plan that you're going to approve actually show that. There are deeper lots along Oak Bend Drive due to a removal of a utility easement. So basically the lots have become larger. So it's good for the plan. A question came up at the last meeting where the developer brought it up, which was some lots may have not met control of access requirements. So what we have asked the developer to do is reduce one lot in order to meet the control of access requirements. So they have done that, so that issue is gone, basically. The masonry screening is provided. Initially, they were asking for wood fencing along the southern boundary of the property, which abuts an existing multifamily development. They have come back, and now they're saying that we will comply with the masonry requirements, so they will have a masonry requirement on the southern end of the property. So again, this was a condition. It was one of those flexibility.
What P&Z saw, but it's to our advantage.
Correct. It's to our advantage, but yes, P&Z saw wood, and that's what they approved. But this is
By
not
the way,
masonry.
There's a tubular steel fence there along the boundary with the apartment complex, and they've had communication with the apartment complex about removing that tubular steel. since there'll be a masonry wall, there's no reason to have two fences side by side with a difficulty getting in behind one and mowing, so the apartment complex will take care of that.
And then the other one was the wood fencing along the northern boundary property, which is not a requirement of the ordinance, but what they showed the Planning and Zoning Commission in error, basically. They provided an exhibit that showed masonry fence with, a wood fence with masonry columns. And then later on, they were asking the council to just look at a masonry fence. To look at a wood fence, I'm sorry. Take the masonry columns out and just look at a wood fence. They are still asking for the same thing, and they would like to again plead their case with you tonight about not having the need to have a masonry fence on the northern property, mainly because it abuts industrial zoned land. And if that if the industrial develops, it's the requirement or it's the responsibility of the industrial zoning to provide a masonry screening wall there. If it changes to any other zoning district except for residential, if it's a single-family residential zoning, then it's wood fence to wood fence, two residential zoning coming together. But any other zoning district that's a higher zoning district, basically more intensity zoning district, is required to provide a masonry screening wall. Also, the topography is such that the fence will not be visible, so the land is higher than what this land is going to be developed as. But in any case, they are going to discuss that, I think, bring that up at the meeting, and then council has the ability to make a decision on that one way or another tonight. Again, we can elaborate more at the meeting, or if you'd like me to
No.
address any more comments.
But you're gonna make this presentation at the meeting before the speakers make it,
I'd like
correct?
her to.
That's right,
Yes.
okay,
You'll
I
call
just
her.
make sure, right, yeah, I'll call her, ask her to do the deal first. And then, we're not seeing anything tonight that staff has
we
not
know.
seen,
As far as we know.
Okay.
We've been in communication as recently as today, and so.
Okay.
So there's still a window.
But that was a big thing last time. I remember
Lunchtime,
that was,
I think, so.
I remember that was a big thing last time. So, okay. Anybody got any questions on that? It's working?
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nico. Okay, item 4. We'll back up and say that it does sound like we made the right decision in continuing this public hearing until we got all this stuff straightened out, so everybody's on the same page, and so that now they've even come back and decided to make a couple other changes that were in our favor, so it does sound like it worked out good. Item 4. Item 5. Item 6. Item 7. Item 8. Item 9.
Just want to make sure you all caught that voting's only going to be going on at the annex for the municipal election.
What was that?
We'll only be voting at the annex for the municipal election, both early
Early
and
and-
election day.
Even for Dallas County?
Not for Dallas County. Dallas County residents will vote different. That's just for Denton County residents.
Okay.
So basically, in lieu of 3, we're gonna have 1. Well, in lieu of 4, actually, we're gonna have 2. 1 Dallas County,
One
1
Dallas.
Denton County.
We don't have many votes from down there, but
Right.
if they went to the wrong place, they would be upset.
Item 10.
When we do this, would somebody like to tell us a little bit about it, or chief or somebody? I mean, it's in the documents, but just describe it for.
You mean tonight?
Yeah.
You want him to, okay.
Chief Kerbo.
Yeah, Chief, are you prepared to do that tonight?
I don't think I am, but I think
Tim, you
This is for us.
Oh, it's for you, I'm sorry.
I think it'd be more fun to watch Chief Kerbo try and do it.
We should have told him up there.
Do you have tabs on
Are
this?
you prepared to do that?
Can you just want an explanation of what it does for us?
Yeah, that's perfectly.
It's from the
Put it on the video.
fire training system, so we figured it was something you could.
Well, that's why,
Yeah, it's probably what threw you off.
So it needs to be pulled 100%.
so you want that pulled from
Yeah,
consent agenda?
let's do that, because I think for the sake of the video and the audio, just a little explanation might be useful. Just to know what we're doing.
Anything else on that?
Nope.
Okay, item 11. And Judy, these changes are made here, are these just typos here, or are they for everybody?
There's errors that we just, yeah.
Is that on everybody's deal, or is it just on this copy maybe?
I wrote it on yours, we caught it today. Yeah, it's just a chapter, it needs to be chapter 16,
Okay.
and it was listed as chapter 11 in the heading, and it should have started with section 16-251.
Right.
And the ordinance is correct.
Everybody got that? So if you're following along, when I read that, it's gonna sound a little bit different. What I read will be correct.
This guy Scrivener has got some work to do.
Item 12. Now, there is no action to be taken on that or 13, correct?
Right, it's just the second reading of each.
Right. 13. 14, same thing. Is it necessary I read all the administrative comments on those that you're gonna be reading the thing?
No, it's not necessary.
All right. Any questions, council? Julie? Liz? Paul? We're adjourned. It is 7 o'clock. We do have a quorum. We'll call the city council meeting to order. First item on the agenda this evening is invocation led by Councilman Ferguson and pledge both American and Texas flags led by Mayor Pro Tem Vaughn.
Ask you to all please rise with me for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you.
All right, if you'd join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Getting it.
Pick a lock or something.
We have some very important proclamations and presentations that we want to make tonight, so if y'all kind of bear with me here. If I could have, we're going to start off, if I could have Tucker French, please come up and join me. Tucker, I'm Dean Euchre. Nice to meet you, sir. Why don't you come over here and join me? You know, there's a lot of things to be proud of in this community, and one of them is the aesthetics of our community, the beautiful areas that we have in our community, and most of all of that is done by people like Tucker here who step up and volunteer their time and their resources to help keep our city looking beautiful on a regular basis. So with this, I want to present you and your fellow workers with this proclamation. Whereas Keep America Beautiful Incorporated is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to helping individuals improve their community environments, and whereas Keep America Beautiful Incorporated has established the Great American Cleanup as its signature national effort for involving American citizens in environmental stewardship and is celebrating its 30th anniversary in 2014, featuring over 3.8 million volunteers participating in over 30,000 events in over 16,000 communities in all 50 states. And whereas Keep Louisville Beautiful is an award-winning affiliate of Keep America Beautiful, Keep Texas Beautiful, that will host and promote litter abatement, recycling, beautification activities at its 28th annual citywide spring cleanup project taking place on Saturday, April 26, 2014. And whereas the community of Louisville is proud of its natural resources and its neighborhoods and seeks to protect and improve our community through the actions of citizens, schools, government, and businesses working together. And whereas the city of Louisville recognizes the important commitment to improve American communities through litter prevention, beautification, and solid waste management initiatives, and is committed to helping spread the word about the importance of volunteerism and motivating everyone in our communities to become stewards of the environment. Therefore, I, Dean Euchre, Mayor of the City of Louisville, on behalf of the Louisville City Council and all of our citizens, do here proclaim the month of April 2014 as Keep Louisville Beautiful Spring Cleanup Month in the City of Louisville, and call upon our citizens to join in activities that promote responsible environmental stewardship and help us renew our commitment to building a better world today and for our future generations. Proclaim the 7th day of April 2014. Let's get a photo. And then would you like to say a few words, Tucker? Okay, let's get a photo right quick. Thank you. Go ahead, Tucker. This is for you.
We just wanted to thank all of you councilmen and the City of Louisville for all of your help, and also would like to invite all of you to attend the spring cleanup, which is going to be Saturday, April 26th out at the Residential Convenience Center, and we hope to see you all there.
So you're going to have hot dogs again this year?
Yes, sir.
All right. Great. We hope everybody comes out and joins us. Now if I could ask Angela Sherrod and Grace Lemons, Tim Connor, and Gwenna Pettigo. If y'all would all please come forward and join me, please. Oh, okay. I understand Ms. Pettigo is sick and won't be able to join us tonight. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure y'all are going to represent her very well. Yes. You know, sometimes we take for granted some things. I know how blessed we are, but with the communications, the way things are today and technology today, you know, we think everything's just at our touch of our fingers, that we ought to be able to have instantaneous response. And we do most of the time. And the reason we do is because people like this and the dedication and devotion that they have, which sometimes isn't well received among people, and you certainly, I don't think, get the accolades that you deserve sometimes because of the number of lives that you save and the pressure that is put on you, but yet you deal with that each and every day, and you make sure that people are taken care of and their needs are met. And we thank you very much for what you do. And with that, I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week was originally introduced in Congress in 1991 to honor emergency telecommunicators. It's hard for me to communicate these words, and y'all do a great job what you do. And to recognize the crucial role they play in our communities. And whereas thousands of dedicated public safety telecommunications personnel serve citizens every day by answering telephone calls for police, fire, emergency medical services, and by dispatching assistance as quickly as possible. And whereas public safety telecommunications personnel are the vital link between the people calling for help and the agencies which assist them. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are professionals who behind the scenes and often unrecognized actions are responsible for helping protect people, property, and save lives. Now therefore, I, Dean Euchert, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, Texas, do hereby proclaim the week of April 13th to April 19th, 2014 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the City of Lewisville, and urge all citizens to honor telecommunicators and to recognize the crucial role they play in our city. Proclaim the 7th day of April, 2014. Once again, let's get a photo here, and then one of y'all would like to say a few words.
Well, thank you for honoring us and recognizing us for the public safety dispatchers. But we are having an open house on the 16th of April, and we'd like to invite all of our city council. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. Could I have Scott Austin please come and join me? You know, another thing is it's not coincidence. Things happen for a reason, but you'll see here when we do this next proclamation that why these two things, the last proclamation and this one here, just work hand in hand to make sure that our lives are better each and every day and that we feel more safe in each and every day. Whereas Americans are victims of more than 22 million crimes each year, and these crimes also affect family members, friends, and neighbors, and co-workers, leaving a lasting physical, emotional, and financial impact on people of all ages and abilities, and of all economic, racial, and social backgrounds. And whereas in 1984, the Crime Victims Fund was established by the Victims of Crime Act to provide a permanent source of support for crime victim services and compensation through fines and penalties paid by convicted federal offenders. And whereas the Crime Victims Fund today supports thousands of victim assistance programs who provide help and support to child victims of violence and sexual abuse, stalking victims, survivors of homicide victims, victims of drunk driving crashes, and victims of domestic, dating, and sexual violence, and other crimes. And whereas by ensuring that federal offender criminal fines and penalties are deposited into the Crime Victims Fund, Congress affirmed that those who commit crimes should be held accountable for the impact of their actions. And whereas Crime Victims Fund provides victim assistance to more than 3.5 million crime victims annually, and also provides compensation funds to thousands of crime victims each year for reimbursement of expenses related to their victimization. And whereas the Lewisville Police Department is joining forces with victim service providers, criminal justice agencies, and concerned citizens throughout Lewisville and Denton County to raise awareness of victims' rights and observe National Crime Victims' Rights Week. Now, therefore, I, Dean Euchert, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, Texas, do hereby proclaim the week of April 6th to April 12th, 2014 as Lewisville Crime Victims' Rights Week. Further, I urge all of our citizens and institutions, public and private, to support the establishment and enforcement of victims' rights and services through participation in appropriate state and local activities during the designated week with the theme of 30 years restoring the balance of justice. hereby proclaimed on this 7th day of April 2014. Let's get a photo and maybe you say a few words. Looks like I didn't prepare anything. You did a great job. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Ann, would you please come and join me, ma'am? Wasn't anybody else you wanted up here, right? Nobody else comes up here. Just us. Ann is our, I hope you don't be offended, she's our mother of our library. She has done.
I'm the second.
Well, okay, she's the second mother. She has just taken on our library and adopted it as a child of her own. She does a tremendous job with her and all of her coworkers that she works, but she leads by example. And the old saying that it trickles down from the top is really true with Ann and her organization. And we thank you so much for what you do, Ann, in our community, not just there in the library, but what you do in the community with working with the people throughout the community with our library and all that you do. So I want to present this proclamation to you. Whereas libraries help lives change in their communities, campuses, and schools, and whereas librarians work to meet the changing needs of their communities, including providing resources for everyone and bringing services outside of library walls. Whereas libraries and librarians bring together community members to enrich and shape the community. Whereas librarians are trained, tech-savvy professionals providing technology training and access to downloadable content like ebooks. And whereas libraries offer classes to meet community needs, providing residents with pre-reading skills development, job-seeking resources, homework and student loan application help, medical and financial education, and assistance to older adults planning their retirement. Whereas libraries continuously grow and evolve in how they provide for the needs of every member of their community, and whereas libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week, now therefore be it resolved that I, Dean Euchert, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, proclaim the week of April 13th to 19th, 2014 as National Library Week and encourage all of our residents to visit the library during this week to take advantage of the wonderful library resources available at your library and to thank those who serve. Lives change at your library.
I'd like to say once again, thank you again for another year of support for the library. Through your support, we continue to provide access to education and technology for every resident of Lewisville.
Thank you, Ann, once again. Could I ask Kathy Locke to please come up and join me? Hi, Kathy. How are you doing? It's good to see you.
It's good seeing you too.
Sure like that purple shirt.
Thank you. I think you have one that matches, don't you?
Yes, I do. You know, it's funny, being in the insurance business, sometimes when you do certain presentations, when you do enrollment meetings and stuff, sometimes you ask a question, do any of you know anyone or have relatives or friends that have been affected by cancer? And of course, everybody raises their hand. I think we all know someone, friend or loved one, that has had some type of effect in their life from cancer. And the work that people do to try to fight that cancer and raise the funds to fight this cancer, because cancer has no friends. And so it attacks us all, and everyone is affected by it. But there are so many people that get out there and work and make sure that those that are affected have support and have their needs met from the community. And that's why you're here tonight, and I want to present you with this proclamation. Whereas Relay for Life is the signature activity of the American Cancer Society and honors cancer survivors and anyone ever diagnosed with cancer and remembers those lost to the disease. And whereas money raised during the American Cancer Society Relay for Life of Southeast Denton County helps support research, education, advocacy, and patient services. And whereas Relay for Life helps fund more than $100 million in cancer research each year, now therefore, I, Dean Euchert, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, Texas, on behalf of the Lewisville City Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, March 16, 2014, as Relay for Life Day. In the City of Lewisville, encourage citizens to participate in the American Cancer Society Relay for Life of Southeast Denton County at the Lewisville High School Harmon campus on May the 16th, 2014, from 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. Proclaim the 7th day of April 2014. And I will tell you that is one heck of a fun event. I hope all of you can come out and attend, and I'll let you tell them a little bit more about it in just a minute. Why don't you tell them a little bit about it?
I just want to thank the City of Lewisville and the City Council for all your continued support through the years. It is a fun event. As we always say, cancer doesn't sleep, and we don't either for that one night. It is a 12-hour continuous walk. We're up to 22 teams and 310 people registered right now, but we still have a month to try and get more community event. It is sponsored in locally. We have the City of Lewisville, Highland Village, Flower Mound, Double Oak is our area that we cover. And the funds really do stay here in our community. And as a nurse of 35 years, I can't believe I'm saying that, of how many years I've been at Medical Center Lewisville, I do see the work being done and utilized in our community every day. So we do appreciate your continued support. Thank you.
And she started there at 10.
Yes, yes, I was a youngin'.
Thank you. Okay, Chief, would you come forward with me, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
You know, there are certain times when we have some of our team members here that work with the city that go above and beyond their call of duty. And what is so amazing to me about it is it's not something they think about. It's just something that's their nature, to just step in and do. And just, it doesn't take that instant to think. It's just an automatic reaction. And when we have these special things happen, we like to bring them forward and recognize them. And Chief's going to tell you a little bit about a couple of these gentlemen that we have here that we would like to recognize tonight and tell you the story about what happened. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Chief, and then you go.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you all for being here tonight, and thank council for your support for our police department. We do have two such individuals that distinguished themselves earlier this year. I'd like to ask Officer Richard Anders and Officer Brian Shelton to please join me down front. You know, day in and day out, our first responders, both police, fire, and EMS, encounter a lot of situations that they don't really necessarily know they're going to get that day, but they have to be prepared nevertheless. And most of these guys do it day in and day out, and it's, you know, can be considered a thankless job. But for, you know, occasionally we'll have folks that will step up and do something above and beyond the call of duty. And so we're going to recognize Officer Richard Anders and Brian Shelton for a life-saving award. Please bear with me while I read the citation. On February 24th, 2014, Officer Richard Anders was on patrol and saw a crying man standing on the Corporate Drive overpass over I-35E with his right leg over the railing. Dispatchers advised that they had received several calls about a suicidal person. Officer Anders parked his car to block traffic and signaled for the man to walk towards him. The man shook his head no and indicated he was going to jump off the bridge. The man kept shifting his weight, giving officers the belief that he would jump. Officer Anders continued to engage the man while Officer Brian Shelton and several members of the fire department snuck up from behind. Officer Shelton quickly grabbed the man in a bear hug and pulled the man to safety. Officer Shelton put himself in danger to save this man's life. The Police Department's Awards Committee met to review this incident and recommended Officers Anders and Shelton to receive the life-saving award. If not, for their quick response and immediate actions, this individual would have most likely jumped to his death and possibly even hurt or killed others below. So on behalf of the City of Lewisville and the Lewisville Police Department, it is with great pride that I present both of you with life-saving awards. Congratulations both. Job well done. Thank you, sir. Let's get a photo.
Gentlemen,
Stay here. Stay here, though.
Thank here, you're not through yet.
You know, the other important part about this job is the support system that you have at home. And I believe these gentlemen have folks here that are significant to them. So I'd like you to introduce them to us, please. Richard?
My wife, Melinda, that's indicating I should not say anything, but it's my wife, Melinda.
All right. And Brian?
My wife, Margaret, is in the back. My son is in the blue next to her. And my daughter is in the back corner in the small chair, so she can sit next to me.
Thank all of you family members for supporting these guys. I know we probably spend more time with them than y'all do sometimes, and we appreciate the support that you give them.
You know, Chief, I really do appreciate you recognizing the family, because I think all of us know if they didn't have that family of support there, they wouldn't be able to do the jobs they do each and every day. So we thank you for coming and for being here and supporting them tonight. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. It's a continued public hearing, consideration of the service and assessment plan and assessment role for Lewisville, Castles Hills Public Improvement District Number 5 at the March 3rd, 2014 meeting. City Council called for a public hearing to consider the service assessment plan and assessment role, which have been created to identify public improvements to be provided by the PID, along with related information concerning the costs and indebtedness to be incurred. Revisions to the plan are currently pending the Attorney General's opinion. Recommendation is that Council continue the public hearing to the Council's regularly scheduled meeting April 21st, 2014, which will be held at 7 p.m. at Lewisville City Hall. Councilman Ferguson?
Yes, move to continue the public hearing until April 21st, 2014 regular council meeting.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Ferguson, second by Councilman Vaughn. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2 is continued public hearing, consideration of the service and assessment plan and assessment role for Lewisville, Castles Hills Public Improvement District Number 7. Revisions to the plan are currently pending the Attorney General's opinion. Recommendation is that City Council continue the public hearing to the Council's regularly scheduled meeting on April 21st, 2014, which will be held at 7 p.m. at Lewisville City Hall. Councilman Vaughn?
Mayor, I make a motion that we continue the public hearing till April the 21st, 2014 at the regular council meeting.
We have a motion by Councilman Vaughn.
Second.
Second by Councilman Gilmore. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3 is continued public hearing, consideration of an ordinance for a zone change request from light industrial to planned unit development district zoning for the Hills of Vista Ridge subdivision located on 2 parcels totaling 26.325 acres, identified as Lot 5, Block B, Campbell Ranch Addition, and Tract 5B of the G. Woosley Survey, Abstract 1402, as requested by Amalgamated Development LP on behalf of the property owner. The planned unit development district allows for innovative community design concept that may contain a mix of uses in which may not meet all regulations of the city standards zoning categories. The recommendation is that City Council consider the ordinance as set forth in the caption above and consider the ordinance and provide specific direction regarding 3 items that are different from the planning and zoning submittal. 1 is the 6-foot wooden fence, no masonry columns proposed along the northern boundary of Tract 1. 2, the loss of 1 lot to accommodate control of access to Tract 2 and 3. And 3, the proposed masonry wall instead of wood along the southwestern boundary of Tract 2. Nika, would you please come forward and do us give a presentation on this, please, ma'am? Thank you. I forgot to do that. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I wanted to briefly cover the difference between a planned unit development zoning classification versus what we call standard zoning classification. Although we have had planned unit development zoning classification within the zoning ordinance for the past 20 years, we have really not used this tool very much, mainly because the ordinance required large acreage in order to come into this particular zoning district. Well, since we have very little land for development and most of our land is now infill development, so there are smaller parcels, in July of 2013, the council amended the ordinance to allow for acreage of 5 acres or more to be able to take advantage of the planned unit development. The zoning for planned unit development does allow for innovative design and a much better or a more quality standards, and it's more quality control because the council can add conditions to the zoning district that otherwise would not be allowed with the straight zoning. So for instance, in this case, there's been a little more control over the development requirements that at times have been controlled through deed restrictions, but deed restrictions are private covenants, where in this case, it's going to be placed within the ordinance that's going to be controlled by the city. So examples for this particular development, which is going to be 126 lots, are better facades or better elevations, basically better design for the houses that were developed specifically for this subdivision in Lewisville. 100% masonry elevations next to our major roads. Open space requirements that the developer will have to put in place and maintain for the subdivision. The garage doors that are clad in cedar veneers for better, again, quality of the street front or street facade on the streets, and limit the number of smaller units. So those are some examples of what you can allow as conditions and control over the development or within the development. Now, the procedures for the planned unit development is a little different, mainly because you would want to review a lot more details as part of the development versus with a straight zoning requirement. So within the ordinance, there are several steps that the developer is required to meet in order to go through the process. So the first step that we're looking at right now is the zoning process. And the zoning process and the preliminary plat have been submitted. With the zoning process, you have a set of plans that we call concept plan, which show you a lot of detail about what you're going to see as part of the development. Following this process, there is a development plan application, a project plan, and final plat. And now a lot of the details, because you are seeing a lot of details, are going to be coming back to you again to look at, but they're primarily similar to what you are seeing tonight. The engineering site plan is referenced within our ordinance, but it's truly not needed for residential development because residential development has a set of construction plans associated with the final plat, and so the construction of the project is going to be being looked at the time of final plat. Changes that Mayor, you mentioned as part of the caption of the agenda item so there were some changes that you're seeing tonight that Planning and Zoning Commission did not see, and I wanted to briefly cover those, which are basically some lots are a little bigger due to an elimination of a utility easement. So there are higher requirements versus lower requirements. A wood fence was replaced with a masonry screening wall along the southern portion of the property. Again, that is a betterment to the development, but that's something the Planning and Zoning Commission did not see. A fence that was actually shown to the Planning and Zoning Commission was a wood fence on the northern property line with masonry columns has been changed to just straight wood fence. The developer would like to make their case about why the wood fence is actually appropriate in that location, and they're here following my presentation to make a presentation and show you some pictures. And one lot has been eliminated in order to eliminate the control of access variance that would have been on the preliminary plat, so now the preliminary plat will not have that variance. Again, I want to reiterate that both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council will continue to see components of this plan as we're coming back for a development plan, a project plan, and a final plat, but they all can be on the same agenda. So they all can be approved simultaneously as part of the same agenda. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and of course, the developer is here for their presentation.
Council, any questions of staff?
No, sir.
Thank you, Nika. Do you have a card here by would like to speak, Mr. Tom June? I hope I pronounced that correctly. If not, please, if you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, that's accurate. Tom June, thank you. It's 16301 Quorum Drive. Thank you for the presentation. That was very thorough. All the items that she discussed are accurate. I spoke with Nika earlier in the day. She had mentioned that there was a concern over the wood fence on the northern property line. Again, this project, we're very excited to build it, and we've gone so far as to do on-the-ground topography and formally submit the preliminary plat, and that is in process, and we learned a lot of things. And one of the things that we learned is there is a significant hill on the north side. So this morning, I went out there and walked on Oak Bend from the north end where the Walmart is and walked south along there, and I took 3 photographs. I'd like to share that with you.
If you just handle me, then I'll pass them out. Thank you, sir.
I mean, those photographs just demonstrate that the hill is significant, and from Oak Bend, the line of sight to the north property line, you will never see those fences. I mean, it is a significant hill. With regards to the wood fence on the north side, it is currently zoned light industrial. So the requirements are for that development, if it does get built, that they would be required to build the masonry wall. And like I mentioned earlier, we're excited to move on this project. We'd be happy to answer any questions. I have people from the applicant, Amalgamated, is here as well. So if you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. June. Does council have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Councilman Ferguson.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, Mr. June, I appreciate what you've done to address concerns. I know that, I particularly had some very real concerns about what we were doing and take a lot of responsibility for delaying the process one council meeting. I apologize for that delay, but I do appreciate what you have done. I also have talked to Nika and discussed the wooden fence. I have no problem with the wooden fence at this time, looking at the adjacent zoning and what that would require in the future, and then also looking at the topography issue that you pointed out. So for myself, I think all of my objections have been met, and again, thank you for addressing those and bringing all of this to the council. With that, I move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption.
Excuse me, let's move to close the hearing first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Move to close public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilman Ferguson, a second by Councilman Durham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Sorry. With that, now I move to approve the ordinance as set forth in the caption along with the revised concept plan and the related exhibits submitted to the City Council at tonight's meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Ferguson and a second by Councilman Gilmore. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Well, Counselor, I'm sorry.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, amending Chapter 6 Land Development Regulations and Chapter 17 Zoning of the Lewisville City Code, rezoning approximately 26.325 acres located in Lot 5, Block B of the Campbell Ranch Edition and Track 5B of the G. Woolsey Survey Abstract 1402 from Light Industrial Zoning to Plan Unit Development 1, creating the regulations for Plan Unit Development 1, correcting the official zoning map, providing severability, savings, and repealing clauses, providing a penalty for the violation of this ordinance, and declaring an emergency.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Counselor. Item 4 is a public hearing. Consideration of an amendment to Section 17-29.5 SUP Special Use Permit Regulations of the Louisville City Code to no longer require an engineering site plan, but instead require certain other plans, drawings, and information to be submitted along with SUP applications. Since implementing the special use permit SUP ordinance in April 2013, it has been determined that preparation of a full engineering site plan is not necessary for permit review. Instead, a more conceptual set of plans referred to as a development plan containing information regarding the layout, setbacks, access, parking, signage, landscaping, and building elevations is more appropriate and will allow applicants to delay engineering cost until they have determined whether or not the requested SUP is approved. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the amendment by a vote of 4-0 at their April 1, 2014 meeting. They weren't just kidding, right? Never mind. It was April 1. Anyway, recommendation is the City Council.
Got it, Mayor.
Thank you. I thought you did. Recommendation that the City Council approve the proposed ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Gilmore.
Move to approve as written.
I'm sorry, you need to close the public hearing.
I can close the public hearing as well. I'll do that one.
Second.
Have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilman Gilmore, second by Councilman Ferguson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, Councilman Gilmore, you want to continue?
Move to approve as written.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Gilmore to approve as written, a second by Councilman Ferguson. Councilor?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, amending the Lewisville City Code, Chapter 17 zoning, Section 17-29.5 Special Use Permit Regulations to no longer require an engineering site plan, but instead require certain other plans, drawings, and information to be submitted along with SUP applications, providing for severability, providing a penalty, providing a repealer, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the Visitor Citizen Forum. At this time, any person with business before the council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the council. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. Did not have any cards filled out for anyone to speak. Next item is consent agenda. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal of an item, a speaker card must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. Have had asked item 10 to be pulled. So, Councilman Tierney.
Move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 10.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Tierney to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 10, a second by Councilman Durham. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10 is approval of a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $21,774 from the Police and Fire Training Fund for a purchase of a fire simulation training system. A fire simulation system that uses a waterproof panel featuring thermal sensors that interact with a hose line and display various digital flames to realistically recreate the seat of a fire is requested by the fire department for use at the fire training tower. Funding is available for this purchase in the Police and Fire Training Fund. Chief Tittle, would you please give us a little presentation on that, sir?
Mayor, Council, I appreciate the opportunity to get up here and actually explain to you a little bit about this fire simulation training tool that we want to add to our training division. We're actually excited about it and hope it gets approved tonight. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about how we actually do live fire training today. And that is, at our training tower, we have a couple of different portions to our training tower. Part of it is just a 2-story portion, and part of it is a 4-story portion, where we can only do live burns in the 2-story section. And to do those live burns, we have to actually set on fire pallets and hay to simulate a live fire. And then our guys would practice, you know, their hose deployments, obviously putting on their protective clothing and their SCBA, deploying the hose, and then crawling in and finding the fire and simulating putting it out. Now, with that simulation of putting it out, they can't actually just completely put the fire out, because if you do that, you wet the pallets and the hay down enough that you can't relight it and run multiple scenarios. So they just kind of hit it to knock it down and reduce it without completely putting it out. What we have found is we're teaching bad habits in water application at live fires, so much so that we've had some captains tell us that in live fire situations, they've had rookie firefighters that happen to actually be on the nozzle for that fire and get their first good fire, and they go in and they just start hitting the fire in short bursts because that's the way they train, and the captain's having to bop them on the helmet and say, hey, open the nozzle, you know, squirt some water. So we're seeing this happening. Also with live fire training, again, we can only do it in the 2-story portion, and with 3-story apartment complexes around here, our hotels that are multi-story with plans for other multi-story development coming to the city, we would like to be able to practice these hose deployments and actual live fire scenarios in our 4-story tower. When we do live fire training, we also subject our guys to contaminants of real smoke. It not only gets in their gear, but it gets in their skin, and as much as we wear SCBA while we're training, there is going to be that residual smoke around the training tower that you're going to breathe in, so you're going to ingest those same contaminants. After the training, then you have to take the gear and clean it before you can put it back in service, so you're not continually putting those contaminants back on your body. So all that being said, with this training system, what we're going to be able to do is we want to buy the system with 2 panels so that we can simulate 2 separate fires in separate locations, and the smoke machine with it. Now what you get with this is the panels will actually have a glow or a fire-like look about them, and then with the smoke machine you get smoke that is realistic smoke, but it's a non-toxic smoke. So now when you put these panels up and you basically turn them on to where they look like a fire, and then you subject the building to the smoke machine and fill it up with smoke, they crawl through the smoke, and what you're seeing is just like what you would see in a live fire situation, where when you get close enough, you're going to look through the smoke and see an orange glow, which tells you, hey, I've got a fire right there. You're also going to hear it. This thing puts off sound where you get the crackling and the popping and the noise like you're actually getting close to a live fire. The only thing you don't get from this is the heat. But with our gear today, that's not a big issue anyway. Our gear protects us so that a lot of times you don't feel a lot of the heat that you used to feel back in what I call the olden days. So with this now, we can practice locating with our hose deployment, crawling around, locating the fire, and then actually squirting these panels with water through our 1 3/4 hose or our 2.5-inch hose. It won't damage them. And what you get from this too is then instant feedback on how well of a job you did on your hose deployment. Did you apply your stream correctly to the seat of the fire, or were you off? And it gives you that instant feedback, and we're teaching good stream deployment habits now, so that the guys go into live fires and they've practiced these good habits instead of bad habits. So we're excited about it. We'll be able to use this in our 4-story tower. We can set, in different floors so that they can practice finding one fire and then finishing searching the building and looking for secondary fires, as well as we can throw some dummies in there for victims, and they're practicing rescue and fire extinguishment all in one time. We can actually take these out portable and use them in buildings. If we require a commercial building or a house that's maybe being torn down along the highway, we can take those into those buildings and simulate the same thing in other buildings. We don't have to restrict it to at the training tower, so it's all portable. And that's the beauty of it. Any place we can squirt water, we can use this training system. So with that, I just ask for your consideration for approval of it from our Police Fire Training Fund, and I'll answer any questions if you have it as well.
Thank you, Chiefs. Anybody have any questions?
Don't have any questions. Just one of the reasons I asked to have this pulled and give you some time to explain it. I had done a little bit of reading about it besides just the agenda, and was my first reaction was, I'll take 2.
Well, and I have to admit, when our training chief came to me and pitched this idea to me, and he explained it all to me, I'm like, well, we absolutely have to try to go for this. It's going to change the way we can train without exposing our guys, contaminating our guys and all that. And again, we're teaching good habits instead of bad habits. So I appreciate you doing your research as well.
Yep, very excited.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate all
especially
your
at this
work.
price.
Councilman Tierney?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion to approve by Councilman Tierney, a second by Councilman Vaughn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is consideration of an ordinance amending the Louisville Code of Ordinance, Chapter 16, Article 5, Section 16-251 through 16-259, Emergency Water Management, and approval of revisions to the Water Conservation and Emergency Water Management Plan. The state of Texas, under Texas Administrative Code Title 30, Chapter 288, requires cities to develop and implement a water conservation and emergency water management plan, and that plans be updated every 5 years. Louisville's plans were last updated in 2009, and scheduled updates are now due to the Texas Commission on Environmental Equality, TCEQ, May 1, 2014. The City of Louisville Water Conservation and Emergency Water Management Plan has been modified to incorporate all minimum requirements of Title 30, TAC Chapter 288, and the Emergency Water Management Ordinance, which is the enforcement document, has been modified to adopt the revised plan. The recommendation is council approve all items as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Durham?
The system that we're in right now, it's fixing to be a problem if something doesn't change pretty quick. With that, I move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Durham to approve, a second by Councilman Ferguson. Any discussion? I will add to that, city manager forwarded us an email the other day where there was a release from the city of Mineral Wells that stated they basically had 400 days of water left in reserve. So it's not just us, but it's the surrounding entire North Texas area that, and not just North Texas, I'd say pretty much all of Texas and other states are in a severe drought condition, and we are having to take unusual steps to make sure that we don't run out of water.
Mayor, I feel like I've done a lot of talking tonight, but I have a couple of things I would like to say on this.
Okay.
I lived through the Dallas drought of the 1950s, so, and it's still a memory in my mind. It's actually my first childhood memory is getting potable water at a station and bringing it home because tap water was undrinkable. And Texas went on a reservoir building binge until about 1970, and then concluded we had all the reservoirs we'd ever need, and did not foresee two things. One you often see mentioned in the press, population growth. The other one I would put in there is the advent of automatic sprinkler systems. And both of those have contributed to a substantial drain on water supplies. The thing about drought is that I also lived through the tornado of 1957. It came down my street. And I can remember people running and screaming in the street, but with drought, nobody runs and screams in the street. You don't know when it started, you don't know when it's over, but we're definitely in one now, and we have to do something. The whole state is in a crisis. So I wanted to put that on the record. Thanks, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor, please read. I beg your pardon.
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, amending Chapter 16 Utilities of the Code of Ordinances of the city by deleting Section 16-251 through 16-259, Water Shortage Rationing Program, and replacing with a new Water Conservation and Water Management Plan, providing a penalty clause, providing for severability, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you very much, Councilor. I apologize. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is item 12, second and final reading. Consideration of an ordinance to the City of consideration of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, extending the term of an ordinance granting a gas franchise to CoServe Gas Limited and providing an effective date. The recommendation that council conduct the second reading as set forth in the caption above. Councilor?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, extending the term of an ordinance granting a gas franchise to CoServe Gas Limited and providing an effective date.
Next item is the second and final reading. Consideration of an ordinance granting Atmos Energy Corporation, a Texas and Virginia corporation, its successor, and assigns a franchise to construct, maintain, and operate pipelines and equipment in the city of Louisville, Denton, and Dallas counties, Texas, for the transportation, delivery, sale, and distribution of gas in, out of, and through said city for all purposes, and for the payment of a fee or charge for the use of public rights-of-way. I did have a card filled out by Jan Krug. Here to answer any questions. Did not wish to speak, but is here to answer any questions if council had any questions. Any questions, council? Counselor?
This is an ordinance granting to Atmos Energy Corporation, a Texas and Virginia corporation, its successors and assigns, a franchise to construct, maintain, and operate pipelines and equipment in the city of Lewisville, Denton, and Dallas counties, Texas, for the transportation, delivery, sale, and distribution of gas in, out of, and through said city for all purposes, providing for the payment of a fee or charge for the use of the public rights-of-ways, and providing that such fee shall be in lieu of other fees and charges, accepting ad valorem taxes, providing for a term and effective date, providing for written acceptance of this franchise, providing that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public, providing for severability, and ordaining other provisions relating to the subject matter hereof.
Item 14 is a second and final reading, consideration of a franchise ordinance for the collection of residual garbage, refuse, yard waste, bulky waste, recyclables, and multi-family recycling, and containerized commercial solid waste with Waste Management of Texas, Inc. Recommendation is that council conduct the second reading as set forth in the caption above. Councilor?
This is an ordinance, the City Council of the City of Lewisville, Texas, granting a contract and exclusive franchise for collection of residential garbage, refuse, yard waste, bulky waste, recyclables, containerized commercial solid waste, and multifamily recycling within the city of Lewisville, Texas.
Okay, that brings us down to reports. Nika. Bob.
Yes, sir. This Saturday, the Easter Bunny will be in town. He'll be out at the Toyota of Louisville Railroad Park. Beginning at 9 a.m., the Louisville Noon Rotary Club will have a pancake breakfast available. There's going to be a lot of activities for the kids and families out there, and all of the age group Easter egg hunts will start at 12 noon.
Thank you, Bob. I know it's gotten to be a bigger and better event each year, and I know last year, even with the rain, it was still a great, tremendous event, and look forward to it this year. Chief Tittle. No, sir. Linda. Chief Kerbo.
No, sir.
Carol?
Well, we got a little bit of rain, but it's not going to make a lot of difference, maybe 4/100ths of an inch or 4/10. But I would want to let you know that we're still 7.6 feet down. And Councilman Ferguson had asked about the depletion of the lake, and it's about 33% right now. But if we're positive, that's 67% full. So, but no, we do have 33% depletion of Lewisville. That's not of the connected lakes. That's just of Lewisville.
We seem to be more blessed in some areas of the state, so we'll be thankful for what we have. All right. Donna? All right. Brenda? Mr. Ferris? Mr. Backus? Councilman Durham?
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilman Tierney?
Oh, sir.
Councilman Gilmore?
Mayor, just a quick announcement. I was blessed to have an addition to my family last year through our Animal Services Department. We adopted a dog. Well, this past couple of weeks have been so wonderful, we took the opportunity to use the dog park for the first time. And it is a phenomenal amenity when you get a chance. We've got a small dog park and a big dog park. And it just tons of great people out there to meet, tons of new folks, and it's over at Louisville, Toyota of Louisville Railroad Park. So take advantage of it while the weather's great. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. King?
No, sir.
Councilman Ferguson?
I didn't burn up all my time. MCL Grand coming up. We've got a stage show, Tilly the Trickster, April 10th and 11th, 2 shows presented by Texas Creative Arts Academy. Treasures, a 30 Years of Dance, 2 shows, April 25th and 26th, presented by Lake City's Ballet. We've got a concert coming up this Friday, Dvorak's From the New World, very, very popular classical piece performed by Louisville Lake Symphony. This is also their 30th anniversary year, and there will be a reception after the concert. And they're doing a buy one, get one free ticket offer online, so you might go look for that. Kerry Rodriguez and Luke Jacobs will be here as part of Texas Tunes on April 19th at 8 p.m. There's also an opening act, Michaela Kahn, so get 2 for 1. And I can tell you that Carrie's incredibly talented and very popular around this area, so I encourage you to come take a listen. April 19th, 8 p.m., Texas Tunes, MCL Grand. Also have Healthy U Health Series, Sleep Better, Live Better on April 10th. That's presented by Medical Center of Louisville. And Lights, Camera, Fashion, April 15th, presented by Donna Park Photography, benefiting Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and it features local high school students as models. And then finally, art exhibit in the gallery. The Wilds of Texas is an exhibit by the Visual Arts League. It opens on April 12th in the MCL Gallery, and that gallery is open Tuesday through Saturday, 1 to 5, and always open during public performances. And that's it, sir. Thank you.
Great report. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Vaughn?
Yes, Mayor, I only have one announcement I'd like to make, and that is that there's going to be a emergency preparedness event on April the 26th. It's going to be hosted by Congressman Burgess in partnership with the City of Louisville, and it's going to be at the Harmon School campus from 8 to 12 on the 26th. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor? Julie? Officer, once again, thank you so much for being here, and I know you were excited to hear some of the accolades of some of your fellow workers tonight, and I know each of you do that every day. Like I said before, without thinking, it's just human nature for you. We thank you for what you do. In accordance with Texas Government Code Subchapter D, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, contemplated litigation, Texas Department of Transportation, I-35E, Phase 1, row CSJ number 0196-02-110, parcel number 6, and Section 551.072, property acquisition, Section 551.074, personnel matters, city manager or interim city manager, deliberation of appointment, employment, reassignment duties, Section 551.087, economic development, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We will now convene into closed session. Rudy, there you go. Don't leave. I need to talk to you.
I'll catch him going that way.
Look, see, I told you he was fixing out that door. I know.
Running point there.
We'll convene back into regular session. Is there action be taken, council?
Yes, Mayor. I move to reject the offer authorized by Texas Transportation Commission to purchase parcel number 6, row CSJ 0196-02-110 for a total sum of $40,063.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Ferguson, a second by Councilman Gilmore. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any further action, council?
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion adjourned by Councilman Tierney, second by Councilman Ferguson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.